Hey folks, Greg Marchand here. Welcome to another episode of the Virtual Instructor-Led Training Program brought to you by the Service Sales Academy. This episode, we're going to do another technical knowledge for service advisors, that's the TKSA, on anti-lock brake system basics. Okay, we're going to keep this basic, but remember why we do these technical knowledge for service advisors. The more you know, the more you'll sell. The more you know, the more confidence you're going to have. That's going to come across in your sales process. And the more you know, the better questions you're going to ask of the technicians and of the customers. So why do we even have ABS? Well, look, the long and short of it is, if the wheels stop turning, you can't steer. See, drivers tend to panic when roads get slippery and they let the wheels lock up. And for years, we taught them, pump the brakes, but it was never enough. As soon as your wheels lock up, you want to push your foot further to the floor, and the car keeps skidding and skidding and skidding. And so when drivers had, we said, no, take your foot off, pump the brakes. But you know what? We weren't fast enough. See, remember this. Anti-lock brake systems is about maintaining control, not stopping distance. You'll actually increase stopping distance when your ABS is present, but you'll maintain the control with ABS. That's the really important thing. It helps to maintain that control when the wheels do lock up. Now, I think another good thing about it is that it's computer controlled. The computer knows when to do it. And the computer can do it way faster than our right foot can do it. All right? And ABS today in 2018 is a really important part of accident avoidance systems. Okay, so ABS is about maintaining vehicle control, and it works now in conjunction with all kinds of other accident avoidance and safety systems in that automobile. Now, maybe the not so good thing that you could convince me of with ABS is that it is computer controlled. Whoa, wait a minute, Greg. Garbage in, garbage out, right? If we get bad information in, we're going to make a bad decision. It's also sometimes really misunderstood in terms of what it does and what it's supposed to do. And then today there are really complex systems involved, so it's not as simple as it used to be. Remember though, we're talking about basics here, because service advisors, we just need to know the basics so that we can have some confidence in what we're selling, and that we can understand a little bit more maybe about what the technicians are trying to tell us is wrong and what needs to be done. The components of the ABS system are everything involved in the brake system. So that's everything here in white, the discs or rotors, the pads or whatever friction material, could be brake shoes, calipers, hoses, lines, fluid, all of that stuff. And then we add to that the computer stuff, the sensors, the wheel speed sensors, the brake fluid pressure sensors, the pedal position and pedal pressure sensors, things like that. And then we got to have a computer to take all that input and do its math with it, sometimes multiple computers. And we've got to have what we call an ABS actuator, and that's the fancy device that actually applies the brakes for us. It makes the funny noise when the ABS comes on. The operation is actually relatively simple. It just happens really fast. And the simple version of ABS operation is this. The computer sees the wheel stop spinning. So it's constantly watching the wheel speed sensor input. And we can describe that a bunch of different ways. Just know that it sees all four wheels spinning as they're going down the road. Now, suddenly it sees one wheel, or two wheels, or maybe even all four, stop spinning. And as soon as it sees that sensor input say, whoa, hey, wheel's not spinning anymore, it knows we have a problem. We have a wheel lockup situation. And that means we're not going to have control over the vehicle. As soon as it sees that sensor input say, whoa, hey, we have a wheel or wheels not spinning, it tells the brake system, in this case the ABS actuator, where all the brake fluid passes through, hold the brake pressure in those lines. So whatever pressure your foot put on the system, hold it right there. And let's see if the wheel starts to spin again. If the wheel does not start to spin, the actuator actually says, or is told to, release the pressure. So even though you've got your foot on the brake, this actuator is in between your foot on the brake and the brake's doing their thing. And if it sees those wheels lock up, the first thing it does is hold the pressure. And let's see, we don't want to increase it, but we just want to see if they'll start spinning on their own. Nope, didn't start spinning on their own. Quick, release the pressure. It releases the pressure so the wheel starts to spin. And as soon as it sees the wheel start to spin again, it applies the pressure again, and it watches for wheel lockup. And it does this really, really, really fast. The process is hold, release, apply. And that means the brake pressure. We hold the brake pressure, we release the brake pressure, and then we reapply it. And it does this very, very rapidly, so that what it's doing is it's trying to get the wheel to keep turning so we get rid of some heat and let the brakes work, right? But we need it to turn enough that we can maintain some control. So hold, release, apply, hold, release, apply. And it happens many, 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 many more times than our foot can do it, many times a second. And that's why it says a funny noise, right? Now, when things go wrong with an ABS system, there's a bunch of things that will happen. The sensors will break, and they'll give us bad input to the computer. And so maybe the customer will notice the ABS is coming on when it shouldn't. Or maybe the ABS light will come on because the system recognizes a problem. And we could also have conventional brake system problems too that will create lights coming on, or situations where the ABS comes on when it shouldn't, or doesn't come on when we want it to. What the customer is going to notice when something goes wrong most of the time is the ABS light coming on. Most of the time, that's what they'll notice. Now, there are times when the ABS will function more often than it should because it has bad sensor input and it doesn't recognize there's a problem with the system. It thinks everything is normal, except it gets this signal the wheel's locking up every now and then and just does its thing. So sometimes the customer will say, my brakes are acting funny. I get a funny noise when I stop sometimes. And that's all it is. It could be on a July day and there's no ice, or it's as dry can be out, and there's no reason for the ABS to come on. Other times, I've got all these lights on my dash, because oftentimes when the ABS light comes on, we'll turn on the traction control light, the check engine light, the brake light, four-wheel drive light, all kinds of stuff. You know why they do that? They do that to try to get the customer's attention, because too often we see a light come on and we go, "Oh, car seems to be running fine," and they'll keep on going with it. Well, ABS is a safety system, so we want to get their attention and we want to really get them to believe that there is something wrong. If it's a broken sensor that's wrong, the customer's going to notice ABS light will be on. Sometimes, not all the time, okay, but most of the time I'd say the light will be on. They'll notice the other lights being on too. They may notice the ABS is not functioning if they're really tuned into their automobile, or they may notice the ABS is coming on too often, again, if they're really tuned into what's going on. The cause of that sensor being broken depends on the type of sensor, where the sensor is mounted, and I won't get into that because we're trying to keep this basic. But let's just say that operating conditions over time will sometimes cause these things to break. If there's a collision, it may cause things to break or cause things to change depending on the type of the sensor. We could have improper repairs, improper parts, corrosion buildup. There's all kinds of reasons for these sensors to give us bad data. And your technician can tell you what happened in this specific case. The correction for that is we've got to diagnose it. You've got to sell some diagnostic time. Essentially, you're going to sell check engine light diagnostic time, and we've got to identify what the proper repair is and then go ahead and repair it. Okay, so the sensors will most of the time will throw a light. We've got to sell some diagnostics, identify exactly what the cause is, and then go ahead and repair the system. Not always that simple, but that's it in a nutshell. If we're going to fix broken sensors, there's a bunch of parts that could be involved. It could be part of the wheel bearing, could be part of the axle, could be part of the axle housing, could be part of the wheel bearing housing, it could be some other rotating component. Every system is different. So make sure that you use your technician to obtain an accurate quote based on that type of system and that automobile. They're not all the same. There are many, many different types of sensors out there and many different fixes for whatever went wrong with that sensor. So one size does not fit all here in this case. If the ABS light is on, which is something similar to what we were just talking about, right? Again, we may have other lights on as well, and we may notice the ABS is functioning too often or not functioning at all. We don't know what the problem is, but we know that the system has recognized some sort of failure, and we need to diagnose it. And that failure could be an input, like the sensors we just talked about, or it could be an output malfunction with the ABS actuator. And so because these systems are very, very complex, there are many solenoids involved, there are, as I say, at least one, maybe more computers involved, and because of that we've got all kinds of sensor input, we've got all kinds of wire harnesses, we've got a lot of things that feed this system. And that ABS light is just like the check engine light. The ABS system runs its own tests on its subsystems to determine if everything makes sense and everything is working as we want it to. And if it sees something that doesn't make sense or is not working like it's supposed to, it'll turn that light on, it'll turn all those other lights on too. And so we need to understand from a diagnostic standpoint what exactly went wrong. So if it's just an ABS light that's come on, it's not just an ABS light that's come on. It's just like a check engine light. And so we need to sell the customer the diagnosis and help them understand the value in understanding exactly what's gone wrong with their anti-lock brake system as part of a safety system. There's a lot of possible problems, but we don't really want to get into that with the customer. I'll share it with you for your sake and your knowledge. Could be sensors like we've talked about, could be an actuator malfunction, could be component damage due to a bunch of different things, could be a computer, could be a mouse chewed a wiring harness, could be all kinds of different things. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's sell ABS light diagnosis, and let's let the technicians get to the bottom of this. Remember, the conventional brake system is what actually applies the brakes here. We just kind of put an ABS in between your foot and the conventional brake system. And if there's anything that goes wrong with the conventional brake system, it will affect the ABS operation. So in that sense, the customer may notice the lights on again, the other lights on, and it may notice all this other ABS stuff that we've been talking about. But they may also notice the brake noise that they would get even if they didn't have ABS. They may notice if they're really tuned into things an increased stopping distance, but probably not. They just may notice that, look, there's something not right here. Or most of the time, you may find that on a courtesy inspection, right? And if the light comes on, if we've got some funny noises or the ABS not working, of course, we talk about complaint cause correction here. The cause is some system failure has been recognized, all right? But it's been recognized in the conventional system. So it could be brake fluid pressure, could be brake fluid too low. Sometimes it's wear indicators on the friction material, and we've got electronic wear indicators that'll actually tell the computer, hey, brake pads are worn out. All kinds of things go on here. Every system is different, again. And so rely on your technician to understand that specific system, that specific cause, and that specific repair. We've got to perform diagnosis before we get to the correction. And watch the videos on the conventional brake system to have a better understanding of how that conventional brake system operates. In summary, the ABS system is there to keep the vehicle under control during wheel lockup, so that we maintain control. We don't just go zipping off the road because the wheel's locked up and we couldn't steer anymore. The ABS control system has self-diagnostics, and so 95% of the time when something goes wrong with the ABS system, the ABS light and all those other ones will come on. That 5% of the time that it doesn't recognize the problem is when the customer will notice the ABS is coming on when maybe it doesn't need to. All right, but never forget the conventional braking system is very, very important to the operation of the ABS, because that's ultimately what's going to stop the automobile, and we need it to operate fully for that computer to do its hold, release, apply cycles many times per second. Okay, I hope this helped a little bit. I know it's a little more complex and we went through it a little bit fast, but check with your technicians. Check out Virtual Vehicle and the ABS system on Virtual Vehicle. Not the most awesome videos or animations in there, but it may help. Together with this, it may help you understand exactly what the system is doing. Okay, and until next time, keep up the great work and never stop learning.